Ouch. Well, most everybody knows my name is Sandy. My name is Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
Did you hear that? Oh, no, I forget what else I was going to say. First of all, I want to thank God for all His blessings, and good morning, Holy Spirit, and all good morning to all the rest of you. You already said beat me to the punch there. I want to thank Him that He's helping me to get rid of fear. I want to thank Terry too, because she's been encouraging and told me only believe. And because fear, I have a lot of regrets because of fear, and I've slowly overcoming that. And John said he's always got afraid at first when he first comes up here, and most people are nervous to begin with anyhow, even when they're used to it. Well, to start with, I was born in Cambridge, Ohio. That's about 2 or 3 miles south of here. But I wasn't there very long because from the time I was born to the time I was, can you hear me? Till the time I was 7, I lived in about 6 or 7 different states, including D.C., coast to coast, and brought up by about that many different sets of people. When I was, my sister, who's a year younger than I am, she was born in Denver, where my maternal grandparents live, and when I was 3, I was living in California, and that's where my alcoholic mother divorced my father. And she took my 2-year-old sister to live in Florida, and my dad dropped me off in Denver with my grandparents, and he got a job in Alaska as a draftsman, and all the rest of his jobs were in deli-type restaurants. I was there long enough to start kindergarten, but meanwhile my mother called my father to come and get my sister because she was sick, and so when he went to pick her up, she was in his little swing, and she went to pick her up and she screamed, and that made me wonder what her life had been like over there in Florida. And at least when he brought her back, I was reunited with my sister, but he didn't know what to do with us. He didn't want, my grandparents had to take care of 2 kids, so he was going to put us in an orphanage, but they were going to separate us, and he didn't want that, so we went to Michigan to his sister's house. And I remember, more than my aunt, I remember her 2 older children babysitting us. And that's also when I had a short visit from my mother, and as I was walking her lead down the sidewalk, I was crying, and my cousin yanked me away from the door, slammed the door shut, and that's the last I saw of her until another couple of years. Let's see, from there, first grade. First grade, I was in Virginia, and 2 elderly women, and I thought they were elderly then, but they were probably younger than I am now. And but they took care of my sister, me, and another little boy. I wasn't through first grade till we were in another state in the care of a married couple who had a young son. And so that's 2 boys. Michigan, kindergarten. Okay, I went from 2nd to 6th grade in D.C. And that was where I acquired a stepmother and 2 stepsisters and a Cocker Spaniel that we had fun with. And that's when another short visit from our mother, only this time she said, "Don't you know me? I'm your mother." And that was the longest I'd lived anywhere up to that time, 5 years. And then we finally moved here. And I lived, I think you all know where, most of you know where Hazelwood is. That's where most of my teen years was. And it was about, I don't know, 7 or 8 houses back of the Jewish synagogue. And my parents didn't go to church, but they took us to church, and it started out at Greek church, because I'm Greek, and but well, my stepsister's not, but anyway, I was there until I said, "Do you mind if we go to a different church?" And no, now they didn't have to take us, because we went right across the street from the synagogue, Central Christian Church, you know. And I forgot to say, I didn't forget, I grew up believing in God, because my mother, who was into the occult, she believed in God. She said, I was in a swing at the park, and she said, "God is everywhere, even in that swing you're sitting on." And so I always believed in God, but I didn't have any understanding, and I knew nothing about the Bible. One of the things I asked myself as a teenager was, why am I here? Where did I come from? Where am I going? What's this all about? Why am I here, and what's this all about, this wacky world? And I said, if God put us here, and I believe that, He's a lot more intelligent than we are, so there's got to be a reason, a purpose. What is it? What I think it is now is we're here to glorify God, live by faith, and spread the gospel. Another time I asked myself who I was, and this time I tried to be still, like be still and know that I am God. I tried to be still and let the answer come to me. Well, what came to me was, whoever I am, I'm trapped inside this body looking out through these 2 holes in my head, and if I could get out, I could go anywhere I want. Even space. Ooh, that scared me, and I jumped back in. As a teenager, I had a split personality because, my mother told me when I was a child that I was happy-go-lucky. So I guess innately that's what I am. But I'm also, on the other side, I was self-diagnosed as manic depressive, what they call these days as bipolar, one extreme to the other. So besides being sunshine and smiley, which is what everybody called me, I was also deeply depressed and felt like sleeping all the time. And I think I was never the suicidal type, because I believe in the afterlife, but I thought about it constantly. And I mean for a long time. And also, I did forget to tell you something about my stepmom. She was tall, attractive, and talented, and she was sort of a perfectionist, and she shellacked floors, she painted walls, she fixed small appliances like a little toaster, and there's a streak in that window, and she vacuumed the floor every day. Don't you dare walk on that carpet with your shoes on. And so I'm used to taking my shoes off when I go in anybody's home. But I thought I could never measure up to her, but she looked down on me. And I had a confirmation of that I wasn't my imagination, because right across the street was my best friend. She was my best friend, maybe my only friend. And she was a triplet sister, and she never mentioned anything the whole time we lived there. But when they moved to New York, one time she told me that she could tell my stepmother favored her two over my sister and me. And I was surprised she had never mentioned that. She also told me something about her mother that she never mentioned, and I was shocked. And so anyway, it took me a long time, and I'm ashamed to say, I held a grudge about my stepmother for years, and even to this day I'm uncomfortable calling her Mom, even though she took very good care of us, materialistically speaking. She was a good caretaker, but I asked God to help me forgive her, and little by little, I thought about the times when she did try to make amends that I hadn't given her credit for, and also how she felt. She had arthritis, she had pneumonia a few times, and she had her issues she had to deal with, and that helped me to get ahead belief. I could forgive her in my head, and I said, God, help me to forgive her in my heart. And she accepted Christ on her deathbed, and I believe I'll see her in heaven, and I'm much better able to forgive her wholeheartedly now, because none of us are perfect, and we all have our faults, and we all are on a journey for spiritual growth, and that's a process for all of us, no matter how good we are, because we can't measure up to 100% to where God is. So pause for the cause. What's next? In my teen years, okay. Tracy, you're not the only one. I told her before, she's not the only one that had an abortion. I've done that too, and I was like thinking about it also when my out-of-wedlock son was born, but I said no. And my parents even asked me, do you want one? And I said no. And there's another thing too. That's in my story. Some of my faults, my two biggest with drinking. I go to AA because I'm an alcoholic, but I quit drinking. The first time I got sober was in 1993, and I remember that because that's the year my dad died, and he did not know I got sober. But I had to take 10 years off of that after a little relapse, but I've been sober ever since then. I don't remember my first drink, but I can remember as a teenager we had a party downstairs in the basement, and the punch was spiked. But I don't remember any consequences to that. And then there was an outdoor wedding, and I was inside downstairs because that's where the booze was, and that's the first time I ever felt high. Then there was the holiday dinner, big long table with a lot of relatives, and we each got a glass of wine, which I chugged. And my dad said, "You drink that like it's water. That's wine, you're supposed to sip it." And tasted good. And I did not know it then, but that was a clue that I was to become a blackout drinker, because I drank too fast. And there's two things that my stepmother used to tell me: "You won't get that job, you won't be able to do that job, you're too slow." And I read, as we were packing, I remember report card I had, and it says that I was so happy, but I was slow with my assignments. Can't you? And so that's the way I've been all my life, I guess. Anyhow, my drinking was at progressive, just like spiritual growth is progressive. Your faults can be progressive, going up or down too. So I had a long record of driving. I think I caused a lot of road rage. And and the two things that I was fast about was my drinking and my lead foot. And I know I started out that I thought I'd never drink at home because there's all this Miller beer that my mother loved, stepmother loved. Hey, I called her mother. And you're thanking, you're helping me. And it never tempted me because I only drank around people because I wanted to feel a part of. And it just, it got worse and my driving. I think at first I want to tell you about when my drinking progressed so much that I was begging God to help me quit. I said, God, why aren't you helping me? You said come as you are. Well, here I am. Things are only getting worse. And they did get worse. I got back in court, my second home. And this time, it came with a 10-day jail sentence or AA. And I thought about it. I think I'll take the 10 short days and get it over with, and then I quit because this time I am fed up. And the prosecutor came over and talked to me and said, he tried to talk me into going back to AA. And I said, I tried AA, I didn't get anything out of it. And he said, AA's been around a long time and it's helped a lot of people. And I said, well, I'd rather just do the 10 days and get it over with. And he said, you don't want to go to jail. And I'm walking away and something clicked because I remembered a prayer that I had asked God long ago for a genuine, I asked him for a church, and I said, this is what I said, God, I know I need to get back to church. I quit church, I think one of the reasons might be because I felt like everything in and out of church was contradictory. And I was searching for truth, but I was so confused. Anyway, I said, I don't know which one. So you pick it out, because I need something genuine, because I need help. And before that next Sunday, he answered my prayer. And I don't want to be too long, but this is one thing I would like to tell you about that. That's one of my favorite testimonies. I worked afternoon turn at the Fisher Body. That's what it was called when I started there. And so I was on my way home. It was dark. There was a car ahead of me, stopped on the road, and I said, I don't know anything about cars, but maybe they need a call or a ride. And when I stopped and got to the car, there was a lady holding a baby, and she looked scared. I said, do you need any help? No, my husband went to make a phone call, and he'll be right back. Okay. So I left, but I didn't get very far, and I said, maybe when he comes back, they'll need help. And I was schizo, trying to learn to live. Here I am drinking, but I'm trying to learn to live by faith. I said, God, should I go back or not? And I said, oh, I don't know. I'll go back. And he was there, and he said he'd like to have a ride to his uncle's house. Well, on the way to his uncle's house, he said, what church are you going to? I'm not going to church, but I'm looking for one. And he started describing his church. It was small, I like that. It was independent, I like that. It was full gospel. I wasn't sure what that was, but it sounded good, and I said, I like that. Now I know. Even when I asked someone at another church if it was full gospel, they didn't know what full gospel was, because they said, yes, today I see it as Pentecostal in nature, not the denomination, but in nature. And when we got to his uncle's house, lo and behold, his uncle was the pastor of this church. And naturally I was nervous about going, but I thought, yeah, I better go, because it's the answer to prayer. But it was in the parking lot, and I read a story to my son out of the Bible before we went in, and he said, and when we got in there, first of all, they were reading songs right out of the Bible. They were singing songs right out of the Bible. I'd never seen that. And they had to, hear the bucket. They didn't take the offering. It was in the back like that at the door. And his Sunday school downstairs and my Sunday school upstairs was the same topic. And when he got out, I said I'll probably like this church, but my son probably won't like it. But he did. He came skipping out of the church. Gee, Mom, I like this church. And I said, if God's going to answer prayer, he's going to do it right. And so, but I got more help at that church than anywhere I'd ever gone to. And one place I had gone was a psychiatrist. No, not a psychiatrist, a psychologist. And also, they taught me, I learned more about the Bible in that church than I had learned anywhere before that. So when I thought about that prayer, answer to prayer, I was thinking about what he had been trying to tell me about going back to AA, and I said, maybe that was answer to prayer. He doesn't always answer the way we want him to. So if that was answer to prayer, I better listen. So I went back to him and I said, okay, not my will, but God's. And so I went back to AA, and it was a discussion group. And when I got there, another thought came to me. I said, if this is answer to prayer, then I'm expecting to get something out of it. And that thought got me excited. So I started listening and listening. And I just kept listening until one day it dawned on me, they thought that I was never going to start talking. They told me that afterwards. But when I listened until it dawned on me that I didn't have that struggle anymore. God had taken all the temptations away from me, and he did for me what I could not do for myself. And I would see it on TV, didn't faze me. I'd be around people drinking, didn't bother me. I'd see a bottle of booze, and all I saw was the skull and the crossbones, a matter of life and death. So that was my first great testimony that I'm so favored. That's my favorite. And then I have one other one that's a favorite. I think I mixed the two up. The church, the church and the getting away from the being delivered from the alcohol, the temptations were all gone. But that wasn't the end of the story, because about, give or take, 10 years, I had a relapse. But after that, been sober ever since. But I don't know how many years ago that was. I know it was over 20. That's all I know. Anyhow, I don't know what else to say. I forget if there's anything else. So you're running out of time, and I better. They say in AA, they say The lead you give before, the lead you give. They call it a lead here, but in Virginia they call it a speaker meeting. And then the lead you give afterwards. So afterwards, I'll tell you everything I forgot. Thank you, Lord.